When you play Fallout New Vegas, I think the standard assumption that everyone makes is that the Legion is the evil faction of Fallout New Vegas. And if you don't look any further beyond that, it makes a lot of sense. The first time you encounter them, they've crucified these people on posts, although it must be pointed out that their hands and feet are tied to the posts. They're not actually crucified, like with a nail through the hand and all that. And the guy who talks to you might possibly be the evilest looking and sounding guy that you've ever seen in your life.
Don't worry. I won't have you lashed to a cross like the rest of these degenerates. It's useful that you happen by.
Okay. But I want you to think in terms of what the Legion represents in the world of Fallout New Vegas. This has been done to death, so we're just going to do a brief overview here, but essentially the factions in Fallout New Vegas actually represent the four different ideologies on the political compass. Yes Man is, of course, liberal tyranny. It's anarcho-tyranny. It's the rule of everyone, which subsequently translates into no rule at all. So I think most people agree that Yes Man is not a good ending, or even really an ending. When you get the ending for Yes Man, the narrator just says nothing changed. People lived and died in the wasteland as they had before, and more never changes.
And so the Courier's Road came to an end, for now. In the new world of the Mojave Wasteland, fighting continued, blood was spilled, and many lived and died just as they had in the old world. Because war never changes.
And you're really left to wonder, why did I go with Yes Man? Why did I pick this guy? Maybe the point of that is more, maybe not a criticism of anarchy, but I think the point of it is more to say, you could not rule the wasteland better than any one of these factions could. Because, of course, Yes Man is technically ruled by the player. In any case, moving on, we have the NCR, which is the most similar to the government that we have now in the modern day. It's a bureaucracy. There's votes. There's a president that has to be elected. They have an army of volunteers and paid soldiers that have a salary. So it's very professional. The only problem with the NCR is that it's not actually different from the governments that came before it. So my biggest argument against the NCR is kind of the same argument that House has against them. House has his famous line. He says, "If you want to know the fate of democracies, look out the window." And he's right. I think democracies are a failed experiment, and we're living through that in our own time. You can see that with the NCR. Their soldiers are demoralized. They don't think that they're fighting for a righteous cause. There's so much corruption and graft, and things don't work like they should. At the very beginning of the game, there's a small-time gang. They're called the Powder Gangers. Essentially, they were prisoners of the NCR, and they completely broke out of prison, and now they rule the entire prison. And they use that as a staging grounds to rob caravans, do basic thuggery on the road. And the NCR doesn't deal with it because they don't have the resources to deal with it. I mean, we're talking about probably the lowest possible level of organized crime. A bunch of dudes with sticks robbing people. And the NCR can't deal with it. To me, that speaks of a deep endemic rot within the system of the NCR. And you can kind of tell by how long the playthrough for each side is. And I'll tell you what I mean. For the NCR, it will take you hours and hours and hours of doing quests, moving soldiers around, taking out Legion forts, stopping the assassination of the president, making them win the battle at Hoover Dam with a bomber. You have to do a lot of work to get the NCR to be competent in the game, to get them to get anywhere. Whereas if you take Mr. House's side or the Legion's side, it takes you a significantly lower amount of time, because the NCR is a rotting structure. And we all know the famous quote about rotting structures: you only need to give it a swift kick and the whole thing comes crumbling down. That's true of the NCR. I think that liberal democracies as a whole are kind of just a stale, non-functional idea. I mean, certainly they can work for a time, but, you know, it's like Winston Churchill said, if you want to know the best argument against democracy, all you need is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Most people, the biggest red pill that there is that most people are completely retarded. I mean, like, they're not qualified to vote in any regard. And that's the problem with the NCR. Moving on to Mr. House. Mr. House represents, of course, the libertarian view. He is an autocrat. He has complete control of the economy of New Vegas and everything. So it's not really libertarianism in the true sense, but it's a representative of what libertarianism always turns out to be. If you look at these countries that are true libertarian states, like Argentina or the banana republics in the 80s, what you see is there's always one company or one man that rises to the top, and that person controls everything in their respective area. The same is true for Mr. House. He's supposedly a libertarian who lets free trade go on, but he's the one pulling the strings. He owns the Securitrons. He runs the strip, you know. You can't get in unless you pay a tax or you have a passport. It's one of these things where it's such a good representation of what libertarianism really is. And Mr. House offers a promising view of the future that the NCR and, maybe even you could say like Yes Man, the NCR and Yes Man don't have a positive view of the future. He says that he's going to reignite the High Technology Development Centers, whatever that means. He says he's going to send colony ships to the stars. He's going to advance humanity. And honestly, with his model, he successfully kept himself alive for hundreds of years with this technology. He won the battle at Hoover Dam. Of course, you had to help him out with that. There's a lot of reasons to think that Mr. House is the most positive view of a way forward for society. There's just one thing that I really can't get over with Mr. House, and the reason why I'm not fully on his side, and that is the amount of degeneracy on display in New Vegas. Of course, sexual immorality, there's prostitutes, but also the fact that he has criminals running the whole show. And not even criminals, one of the gangs, the White Gloves, are cannibals. They eat people. They kidnap people and they chop them into little pieces to eat them. And this, to me, is kind of the same problem that you see with libertarian views in real life, is that they view it all as personal enterprise, personal freedom. What does it matter to you if somebody's being a degenerate? They're just having fun. What does it matter to you if they don't hurt you? That is a deeply flawed way to look at the world. I like to compare it to smoking. People say, well, if people want to smoke, let them smoke. I don't think so. I think smoking should be completely banned for health reasons, because it's not good for you and you shouldn't be allowed to smoke it. And the same goes for prostitution. The same goes for doing drugs, like in Mr. House's New Vegas. There's no problem with chems or doing chems and getting addicted to them. It's all up to you. So that's my biggest problem with the Mr. House's view of society, is that, yeah, he'll have colony ships going to the stars, maybe. He says he will, but who knows. But it's still going to be a society with deep moral rot, with deep problems that are not going to go away by becoming more advanced and more technology focused. And to me, that's the biggest offering of the Legion. Yeah, in some ways they're backwards. They don't like technology, although they'll use it if they're forced to. But the biggest offering for the Legion is that it is ideologically pure in a way that the NCR and Mr. House and the rest of them are not. It's completely honest. They're warlords, and they're going to take over, and they're going to enslave people. And I don't want to make an argument in favor of slavery. All I'll say, the Bible does not forbid slavery. And look, I'm not the bad guy. I'm just throwing that one out there. Okay. Don't blame me. I didn't say anything. Okay. I'm just putting that out there. But in any case, the Legion, yes, they practice slavery, but there is no sexual immorality. They don't have prostitutes. They don't allow gambling. They don't even allow gambling. They don't allow drug addiction. They don't allow, the problems that come with that. And it's a hierarchy, and it gives young men a purpose, like these guys who were just part of random tribes around the Mojave. They can join the Legion, and they have a reason for living. They have, a system. They can rise up and become a legionnaire, And I think what Caesar says about Hegelian dialectics is true, is that the battle at Hoover Dam is not just a battle deciding which faction is going to take over a certain amount of territory. It's also deciding who has the future of humanity in their hands, who has the ideology that's going to drive us forward. And in my view, I don't see any future with the NCR. It's literally the same thing that brought the world into nuclear warfare in Fallout. Liberal democracy with shadowy figures at the top who are pulling the strings, So there's absolutely no reason to go for the NCR. Yes, man, there's not even a vision for the future there. It's just anarchy. And Mr. House, his future society would be degenerate. It would be wrong. It would be immoral to go for a future where prostitution, gambling is completely normalized. And even beyond that, cannibalism and gangs, criminal gangs. That would be immoral. You should not support that. In my view, I think while they are certainly brutal and while they are slavers, I think the Legion is by far the best faction with the most positive outlook on society and how they're going to bring it forward. For the Romans are a perfectly good model to base everything off of. The language that we're speaking right now is based on Roman. We have the Roman letters. They invented aqueducts. They invented amazing technologies. They had a wonderful society. And yes, they had slavery, and they conquered people. While that's certainly uncomfortable, it's a compromise I'm willing to make for a society that is not degenerate, that is not slowly killing itself with the vices of, its own citizens. We should seek to be uplifting. We should seek to make soldiers out of everyone, But in any case, that's my thesis for why the Legion is the best faction in Fallout, in my personal and humble opinion. And I know this is not going to be a very popular video, so, enjoy the comments. If you like the video, leave a like. If you disagree with me, let me know. I'll be happy to, debate with you a little bit, throw some harsh words around maybe. But in any case, I thank you very much for watching. And I also have to say, Hail Caesar. Awe, awe, awe.